So welcome back everyone to the training module 2. We are diving deep in this module on this weekend into the practical aspects of the orders of love, of the work of Bert Hellinger, meaning now that we know about the theory of the orders of love in module 1, we now learn how to apply what kind of words, gestures, and other means to heal the family wound that we have discovered in module 1. So we call that finding what meant, and also here I'm following one of Bert Hellinger's earlier books. It's of course translated from Germany. It's in German. It is the original title is Finden, was wirkt. Just in case you can't find that being German speaking like Rosemary, finden, was wirkt. So, what is part of this today? What is part of today's? Oh no, let's talk about the module 2 in an overview first. So we are learning. Oops, Janet just left us. Oops. Okay, let's see. I hope she comes back soon. Here she is. Mm, Here she's back. Okay, here she's back. Hi. So you dropped out. Something happened. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we are talking in module 2 about the power of words. The power of the 3 simple words, yes, please, and thank you. And we talk about the relationship of these words in the orders of love. And of course, when you participate in the open workshop, you have realized that we are using, or I suggest to the representatives in the constellation to use either yes, please, or thank you, right? And now you will learn why that is and when to apply it so you can do it for yourself. So part 1, which is today, we're talking about the orders of words because they also have an order. We are talking in specifically about the word yes. We are talking about the 3 patterns of relationship. We are also talking about dynamics in family systems. And we are looking at the first dynamic in family systems, which is called reparations or atonements for my sins. Then in part 2, we are looking at the second word, please, in detail. We are looking at the second dynamic in family systems, rather me than you. We are looking into what the morphogenetic field is. And also we, in this part of the training, start to look into diseases, specifically these ones who are fatal or life-threatening or severe, meaning that they are not allowing the individual to live their life to the fullest. And then in part 3, that will be Sunday night, we are looking at the third word, thank you. We are looking at the third dynamic, I follow you. We are looking at how exactly we find in the family constellation what mends the family soul with words, gestures, eyes, eye contact, or movements. So it's a full module, lots of information, but we also have lots of practical work that we will do here. So lots of exercises that makes it more palatable what you hear, and you will certainly understand it from a different angle once you have experience. So today we want to know the healing power of yes. So, first of all, we're talking about acknowledging what is. Then we are talking about the orders of words. We will in particular look at the word yes, what it means when we use it, when we don't use it. Then we are looking at the three patterns of relationship, the dynamics in family system in general, and in specific in the one dynamic which we call atonements for my sins, which is also translation from German into English, and in original in German it sounds like Vergebung für meine Sünden. So let's start with acknowledging what is. Acknowledging what is always at the start of a family constellation. Now, what does that mean? If you see a family constellation starting, you normally see 2, 3, or 4 representatives of a family being put up, either virtually or in a room. And then you start as a facilitator to observe them. And when you observe them, you might see in probably 1 or 2 representatives an emotion or a line of inquiry or something, a relationship to somebody else. And whatever you see there needs to be acknowledged. This is how the family constellation starts, right? So it sounds simple, but it's often overlooked. So just remember for now, every family constellation starts with acknowledging what is. And we will have lots of practical applications with it. And also in our practice workshops that we have every fourth monthly, you will see and you can practice how that looks. The fundament for the movement of the souls is to find what is true, right? So we want the souls to move towards unity, right? To let the stream of love flow again that is hindered or blocked by the trauma that happened in the family system. And in order to move the souls towards this, first of all, we need to find what is true, because all the stories we hear, also the stories we tell ourselves, and the stories our family members tell us, the mother, father, grandmother, is most likely not truth. It's a kind of twisted or torn version of the truth. Yeah. Because if it would be the truth, it would have already healed it. Yeah. So it cannot be the truth. So always remember, the stories you hear are not deliberately, unconsciously, a twisted version of the truth. So when we want to heal the family wound, the first thing is to find what is true. And then it has to be admitted. So acknowledging what is means to find the truth and to admit it. Not you need to admit it, you let the representative admit it. Yeah. You see what is true and then you let the representative admit it. And that is together acknowledging what is. You will see, and especially if you practice for yourself, you will find out that sometimes it's harsh or sounds harsh or unconventional, and it's maybe even hard to do or hard to say, but that is okay. We are not in a family constellation situation to be polite, or to comfort anybody. We are there to find the truth, admit it, and let the souls move towards unity, to healing. Yeah. And therefore you need clear words. Yeah. That don't take anything away, but they don't add neither. So these are words that are not creating another story. This is why they need to be precise, short, to the point. Yeah. not descriptive normally, because that would just create another story, which is not the truth itself. And it will sound quite harsh, and Bert Helling has often been criticized that he is so authoritarian in his family constellations and even cruel. He has been blamed to be cruel to his client and to the participants. That is not the case. He's a most loving soul. But the movement can only happen if you nail it down to what it is. And if one has murdered somebody else, you have to say it. You know, you have to suggest to the representative, say, I murdered you. I took your life deliberately because I wanted to. Yeah. It would not heal anybody to say, well, I might went a little bit far and there might happen something that might have caused you to not live very long. You get the picture? That's not moving the souls. Hmm? That is just stuck energy as it always was. It needs to be acknowledged and admitted exactly what it was or what it is, what you see in this very moment. Um, Observation is the key. So that is really the key that you learn to observe a representative and find out, see movements, emotions, gestures, eye contact that gives you a hint of what is going on. And then when you know the truth, you can ask the representative to admit it. And that's actually the easy part, right? So I want you to know that that is an easy part. Okay.
I'm so
So
sorry.
what happened with you, Janet?
I was having internet issues.
Well, you're not alone. I had this internet issues the whole afternoon with
Oh my
non.
goodness.
That's okay. We are living with this in this technical world, and it has great advantages, which brings us all together. And then, you have the odd disadvantage. So that's all good. And I really wonder where Reem is, because she said she's coming in at 7. So that's another mystery to me. Okay, so observation is key. So what do I mean by this? In the role of the facilitator of a family constellation or in your own life, you observe yourself or others from a space of neutrality, yeah, from a space of unconditional love, even for everyone, without judgment or prioritizing anybody, yeah. So especially when you look at the victim perpetrator dynamic, there is absolutely no room to be for the victim and against the perpetrator, or the other way around, right? This is not observation. This is judgment. Hmm? Observation is, aha, there's a predator, there's a perpetrator. You can see that in the way he's looking. He's my clenching his fist, has aggression, or is maybe ashamed of what he or she has done. So it is clearly after a while, when you train, that you see a perpetrator energy. Hmm? So instead of having any judgmental thoughts about that perpetrators in general bad, you just see, aha, there's a perpetrator. That's it. That's all you need to know. And then you see another representative and you see signs of victimization. Yeah. And we go through that. When you see that, what does that look like? And then you say, aha, that's a victim. You are not sorry for this representative at all, right? It's just what it is. It's a victim. There's a victim, there's a perpetrator. Now you know that's the observation. You can suggest to both of the representative to acknowledge what is, meaning you saw the truth and now you make the representative admit it. Hmm? That is an easy part because you don't need to memorize anything. You just need to observe. Yeah. So in this little example of the perpetrator and the victim, what you would suggest to the victim to look at the perpetrator and say, what you did hurt me. Yeah. Because if that's the truth, otherwise it wouldn't be a victim. If it wouldn't hurt, it wouldn't be a victim. Yeah. If it would have been a game of sadomasochism or whatnot, it wouldn't be a victim perpetrator situation. If it is a victim perpetrator, the victim is always hurt. And the perpetrator is always the one who has hurt the victim, right? Okay. So it's easy to say or to suggest to the victim to admit what you did hurt me. It could be go deeper. You could say, you could suggest to say, what you did hurt me deeply. Yeah. However far you want to go. But that is the truth. And now the person who is represented in the family constellation is admitting it. Might have never admitted it because victims are often ashamed of what happened to them. You will see that over and over again. And this is why they not talk about it. They hide it. And it is a very healing movement for a victim to admit what you done hurt me deeply, hurt me very much, made me suffer, whatever. On the other hand, you would suggest to the perpetrator to say to the victim, I did that. I know I hurt you. Or if it was an accidental situation, you said to admit, like in a car accident, for example, you would say to suggest to the perpetrator to say, I did that, but I didn't know it hurt so much. Yeah. You always find the truth. And how do you know it's the truth? Because the representative will give you feedback. You will ask if you are unsure. You will ask if it is not completely clear by the eyes or the gestures or the way the representative is saying it. If you're not 100% sure that what you suggest to say is true, you ask them. You ask, is it true? And then they would say yes or no. And even if they have represented for the first time in their whole life, they know intuitively if what you suggest them to say is true or not. They know that. They can say yes or no. If it's a yes, you found what is true and the right person has admitted it. So you have you have followed the first step of healing, acknowledging what is. If the representative gives the feedback, it is not true, it doesn't feel right, they would say something like, I'm not sure if I want to say that. Or they would say something like, that doesn't feel right. Now, you would, look for another wording. You just, you are allowed in a family constellation to try out because otherwise you don't find the truth. And we are not satisfied with anything less than the truth. Yeah. Because we know there is no healing if we don't find the truth. It might be a nice workshop and it might be a nice gathering and everybody's very emotional, big hugging and kissing and crying. That's all good, but it's not more than a role play. Excuse me. It's not more than a role play, and there would not be a healing of a family wound taking place. So whatever the issue was that the person was suffering with came to a family constellation will not be healed or gone or on the way of going away, right? So this is why, remember, observation is the key. You don't need to learn this. You need to learn how to observe. That's true. And we will go through that, of course, a lot. And I will share a lot of examples, what hints you can see in a family constellation and what they are hinting at. So the words that are revealing the truth are short, to the point. They can be in the past or present, preferable in the present, but it doesn't harm if it's in the past. Sometimes it feels appropriate to keep it in the past. So if you say, I do that, or I did that, or I have done that, that's acknowledging what is. I see this, I now see it, I now see you, that's all acknowledging. I feel this, like I feel anger, I am angry, or I feel sad, I am, or what comes, I feel guilty, or I'm ashamed. Yeah, this is all acknowledging what it through um, knowing the truth and admitting. Mm. And it's always the I at the beginning, because the representative has to reveal what the family member they are representing are feeling or having done, right? That's actually what needs to be admitted. So for an example, what is always difficult in a family constellation, and I have it a lots of times in the family constellations I'm facilitating, is when you see abortions, right? Abortions are traumatizing for the family soul. The family soul, remember, in module one, is for unity, integrity, everybody who is conceived, meant to be part of the family system, right? And an abortion means to take somebody's life, and beyond any morals and beyond any ethics, it's a murder, because the child cannot, is helpless. And that is the trauma in the family soul. However, there are so many reasons why a woman is allowed and should have an abortion. It has nothing to do with morals. It is just a fact that the family soul wants it to be admitted. Yeah. You cannot just whitewash it and go like, oh well, it doesn't matter, because it does. It does matter actually a lot. So if you don't want that the descendants of this family system are starting to suffer, this needs to come to light and needs to be admitted as what it is. So in a family constellation, when an abortion comes, you have to ask the representative of the mother to say, I did that. I took your life. I murdered you, if you will. Yeah. Um, and I decided it. This is important, because often in the case of abortions, the mothers think they have been coerced into doing it by the father, right? Or by the parents, or by a priest, or, you know, like they wanted the child, but then they have been coerced into aborting the child because it was not wanted. In this case, the mother is still the perpetrator, because without the mother, unless she has been physically um, restrained and it has been done to her, other than that, it is in the end her decision to do it. Mm. So although it doesn't feel right from a moral or ethical standpoint, the soul is not so picky. For her, the soul, it is important that it's admitted that the mother has killed the baby, right? Then healing is possible. And you will see in family constellation that when the mother admits it to the child normally softens and starts to open the heart towards the mother. This is the healing power of acknowledging what is. Hmm? So don't be shy to use direct words. What is, there is no way around, and you can practice this in front of the mirror, and you can practice this with your teddy bear or your dog or your cat or whatever, yeah, on a daily basis, to say clear words without, going round and round in circles, right? And that's a really good practice. For example, I can guarantee you Germans don't have that many problems with it because they are quite direct. But other cultures like the Italian or the Spanish, or it just comes to my mind because I know them, they have, and the Kiwis, by the way, they have great problems, you know, to say what is out loud because they're not used to cultural, they don't do that. So they have to practice this. I don't know how it is in Sacramento, Janet. What is your cultural background?
I feel like it's really tough uh to be like direct in my culture. Like I don't know, I feel like for me it's gonna take some time, like a lot of practice for sure.
Good.
Because I'm not used to being like straightforward.
Hmm. So very good. So from now on, Janet, every day you practice that.
Okay.
Whatever you see, nobody needs to see you. You do it when you're alone or in your car. You see things and you speak them out in the shortest version. Let's make an example. And it could be very, very simple. You drive in your car to work and you see, let's see, a poor person on the street, dirty, yeah? And you say to him, you are dirty. He doesn't hear it.
Right.
He doesn't hear it, but you practice. You are
Okay.
dirty without any judgment, just an observation, you know? And then you see a dog who is probably almost, I don't know, I'm just picturing it like a starving street dog or something like that. Without any judgment, you say to the dog, well, he doesn't hear it, well, he can hear it, he doesn't mind. Um, you are going to die. Yeah. Just acknowledging the truth and practice it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a great practice. And you will also feel for yourself how empowering that is. Not only to facilitate family constellation for your own personal development, it is so powerful to be able to speak things out as they are without judgment, without negative feelings, and without the urge to make them smaller or bigger as they are. They are what they are. They are just what they are, right? So great. So we talk about that next month, Janet, how it
Okay.
goes. Yeah, with this little exercise. How about you, Rosemary? How do you feel about that?
Oh, here we go. When I hear like you have to say, "Oh, you will die," or something, I think I'm pretty good with that.
Mm-hmm.
In a way to acknowledge what it is, but around people, um, I think I may be a bit more careful, or I use 500 words instead of 2.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think. But when you say, I will test this, what you just said, I will practice that, and then I will see if it comes natural to me,
Mm-hmm.
or I if I have to force myself, then I know maybe there's more work for me to do than I think.
Very good. I appreciate that. I think that's brilliant because you only know it when you speak it out loud. Yeah? In your head, it's not the same. It's not the same. You need to practice to speak it out loud. And it does not matter if anybody hears it. You don't never need to have an audience for that. It's
Yeah.
for you that you are, speaking it out loud.
I remember I was 14 and I was watching my grandmother. She was dying and her
Mm-hmm.
daughter was there.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, she will die or she is dying. Whoa. Her daughter, my auntie, she almost killed me just looking at me. And I
Yeah.
just, she will die. She is dying. And she
Mm.
died maybe 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Uh,
And probably that has shocked you so, the negative reaction, that you're now conscious about it, cautious about it. But you are totally right. You don't need to be. However, if you talk to other people and speak your truth, no, not in the setting where you are paid for it, like as a family constellation facilitator, of course, you may choose to be more careful.
mm.
Of course. But it's not because you can't do it. It's just because you don't want the consequences of this, you know. That's all. Mm. So speak it out loud. Practice this on a daily basis. You can start very, very simple. That's a really good exercise. You can look at the wall and say, the wall is white. It sounds simple, but it really helps, or the floor is wooden. Or you wake up and you talk to your mirror and you say, it is morning. You just acknowledge what is and you speak it out loud, and it doesn't need to be emotional, it doesn't need to be big, it doesn't need to be small, it's just what is, whatever it is. Yeah.
Great question. So would you do that with your friends? Or do you, where is the barrier to word it a little bit more carefully?
I never talk to anybody, including my friend, about my observation unless I'm asked to do so. Ever.
But if
If
in a
I
day,
see if I see my friend being tired, I might notice she's tired, but I'm not telling her you look tired. I might ask her, how are you? And when she said, I'm tired, then you said, oh, I noticed that. Yeah. So there is this fine line in communication where we in German we call that übergriffig, where you are in English stepping over the line of somebody's integrity or personal space. Yeah. And we do that often, probably unconsciously in day-to-day situations, but now that we are becoming energy and systemic coaches, we want to be more carefully about that, right? And if you observe yourself or others how they do that and how you feel, if somebody, even a good friend, shares her observation about yourself with you unasked, and then just look into you, does it feel positive or negative? And I tell you the answer right away, it will feel negative. It will feel as a negative because it is, if you will, unsolicited advice. And nobody should do that other than a mother or a father to their child. Yeah. Or an employer to the employee, or an advisor to the client, right? Okay, let's go ahead. Orders of words. So the power of words. Yes, thank you, and please. And the relationship of these words in the orders of love is what we are looking at now. The orders of words is meaning the sequence depends of the words, depends on the relationship you are looking at. Because we have three different relationships, and so we have three different sequences in which sequence we would suggest to the representative to use the words to find what is true for this relationship. Then we have also the sentences of resolution that are powerful, right? It's not one word, it's a sentence. And I would like to, because I will repeat it often, because from the previous trainings, I have the feeling I haven't emphasized it enough. Use the sentences that are used since 40 years by Bert Hellinger and his disciples, if you will. Yeah, you don't need to make up your own. These ones are powerful. Yeah, and it's easy to learn and to remember, and you don't need to you don't need to be original in a friend and family constellation. You understand? These words are powerful. These sentences are powerful. They and you will see they even sound a little bit unusual or even odd because they are not used in a daily conversation. They are powerful words of healing. And it is better to use the words that have been proven to work than trying to make up your own words. Then they are lesser in their power, right? That doesn't mean that some situations do not really ask for a different sentence of resolution or a word. That can happen, but this is for later when you are lots more experienced, really. No, you don't start like that. Yeah. So you listen to the sentences of resolution and you memorize them and you use them. And that's as easy as. And that is where we have the practice workshops for, right? When you later on, after the first 3 modules are finalized, you can start to practice facilitating with our training group um, and my supervision, and then you can practice to speak out these sentences so they become normal for you in this context. So let's look at the pattern of relationship. First of all, we have the mother-father, meaning parents to child, a relationship. In this relationship, there's only one word appropriate. Meant you, so easy. You don't need to learn much more than that. Yes. Every parent has this yes in their heart towards their children. Otherwise, this child would not have been conceived, even if it's a child of a rape. Yeah, because there is destiny at play here. Yeah, and just because the parents are neglecting a child or going away or even abusing the child or doing horrible things to a child, we are not talking about that here. Yeah, we are talking about the soul energy of a father and mother. And they always saying to their child, yes, yes, I have, conceived you, I have born you, I have given you life, acknowledging what is. Yes, I am a father. Yes, I am a mother. That's so simple, right? We're not going in stories about the father or mother. We are going into the energy of being a father or mother, right? So there is no please towards the child because please would make the parent smaller than the child. Hmm? We will talk about that when we talk about please. So there's no thank you to a child because that would also make the parent smaller than the child. Hmm? So there's only one word left, and that is yes. Yes, I accept you as you are. Yes, I love you. Yes, you are my child. Yes, I have given birth to you. Yes, I have donated my sperms, if you will, to create you. There's only a yes. That is the acknowledging what is in the relationship of father, mother to child. From the child to the mother and father, however, that is different. In the relationship from the child to father or mother, there are all 3 words appropriate. Now we have to look at the order of these words. Now, what comes first is when the child is small and helpless. So first comes the please, I need you. Please help me. Please nourish me to the mother, right? Please give me your milk, right? So for the child, it's always the please. And that is not only for a child, like a physical child, that's also for the traumatized child that as an adult comes to you in a family constellation. Everybody who's meeting their parents in a family constellation for the first, I don't know, I say a number, it could be completely wrong, 10 constellations would have to say please to their parents until the love completely flows, because that is the acknowledgement that you need the parents, which is for the adult difficult. Hmm? And when this please comes from the representative or from the client themselves, from the heart, then you can move on to the thank you. First, everything has to be received by the child through the please, the asking. Hey, sorry, my dog. For the asking of it, yeah. So please means asking for it, asking for the affection, asking for the nourishment, asking for all of it. And when the heart is open of the child to receive all that is given, then the child is grown up, self-sufficient, an adult in the true sense, a mature being. And then the child, who's now a mature individual, its own person, who's truly not depending on the parents anymore, especially the mother, can say thank you. Because thank you, and we will look into that later, is finalizing something and moving on, right? So the please is creating a relationship, a binding, and the thank you is the end of it and moving on and letting go of each other. So when the child is mature and has truly received all the father and mother have been offered on a soul level, then the thank you comes from the heart, and that is the way for the child to move on. And then after the thank you, the child can meet the parents with a yes as well. Yes, you are my parents. Yes, you gave me birth. Yes, 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 yes. That's all true, right? So the orders of words in the child to parent relationship is first please, then thank you, and then yes. And if you suggest to a representative who's representing this child to say please, and they can't do it, you know you are at the very beginning to start to heal the relationship from child to parent. And you cannot move on to the thank you before the please comes from the heart. And this might not even happen in one constellation. This might even need 5 or 6 or 7 or 10. Yeah. Because especially the relationship from child to mother can be deeply disturbed. And we look at that closer in module 4, which is called the interrupted movement towards the mother, or the interrupted reaching out movement towards the mother. And because it can be so severely disturbed, the adult child, who is not mature, is still a child because it's stuck in the trauma of the childhood. And in this trauma, stuck as a child, could be 5 years old or 2 years old or whatever, acknowledging what is means seeing the truth. There is a child that needs the mother, and admitting it by suggesting to say the word for it. Please, I need you. Then we have the third relationship, a partner to partner relationship. Remember, we have the parent to the child. It's like our river that flows down from the source to the ocean. And then we have the child relationship, who is at the receiving end of the river of love, which flows down, right? And now we have the partner is the lake situation where they are equal. The love flows equal. It's like the surface of a lake, right? It's kind of spread equal between them. So in this relationship, the orders of words are starting with a yes. Because this is how the relationship starts. If you are not agreeing to the other to become your partner, there is no relationship. So the yes comes first. It's like you can easily remember it if you think of a wedding where you say yes to each other. So if you have this picture of a wedding for a relationship, then you remember, aha, the yes always comes first. If you think of the wedding being the beginning of the relationship, where they say yes to each other. And then when they have established the yes, which can be difficult for partners, because often when they come with a relationship issue, you can clearly see that they haven't, at least one, has not fully committed to the other. And then when you suggest, because you want to find out the truth, right? Remember, so you suggest, let's make an example, to the representative of the male partner, you suggest to him to say to the female counterpart, yes, and they can't do it. then you know you can't go any further. That is right here the problem. Hmm? So then you only have to find out, is the yes possible? Meaning, is there a future for the relationship? Or is this yes permanently not possible for the partner to say? And then that's the end of the relationship. So either way, the one way or the other, you can help your client finding the truth and going ahead with whatever is true. Either the relationship has a chance or not. Because if the relationship has no chance, then it's good to know that and move on, right? And find somebody else. Hmm? And not get stuck in something that's never going to work. So, first one is yes. You can always remember the wedding, and then you think of the ceremony and the yes, and then you remember, okay, right, that's in relationships appropriate. Now, when the yes has been given honestly from one partner to the other, hmm, then the next step is a please, because the please is binding or connecting. Yeah. But this is not a please, I need you. This is a mutual please. So both partners say please to each other, not one to the other. If one says please to the other and the other cannot say please, then we have, guess what? We have a hidden parent child relationship. And we often have that in partnerships. That one is taking over the role of either the mother or father, and the other partner is practically the child. So if they feel comfortable, if one says please and the other says yes, then you know this is the dynamic in this relationship. Hmm? And there are a couple of hints why you know this is actually the case, because if you have this unbalanced relationship where one partner is taking over a parental role, they often give the other partner the name of a pet, like of an animal, like my little rabbit or my little whatever, pumpkin, or nicknames like this that make somebody belittle the other one, right? And that is a clear sign that there's an unbalanced relationship where it is replacing a mother-child relationship. That can be an agreement, of course, but just so you notice it. So the please we want to work towards a balanced relationship is mutual. Both say please to each other, yeah? Please stay with me, please be my companion, please, whatever they want, yeah? Whatever they feel they want to express to find the truth. And then at the end of a relationship is the thank you. No relationship ever really ends if the partners have not mutually said to each other from the heart, thank you. And this is also quite a lovely family constellation that you can facilitate with these simple words that is always a great relief. And I just came from Christchurch, and I had a physical workshop there because I was traveling and I was in Christchurch, and a friend of mine, also a trainee, she organized a workshop there for me. So we had 11 participants for 3 hours workshop, and there were a lot of relationship issues. And what happened there is that there's a representative for the man, the representative for the woman, and then you see, or I suggested to them to say, thank you for the good times we had together, and thank you for the not so good times we had together. This is the beginning of the end. And if a partner cannot say that, they don't want to end it, right? They're emotionally too engaged. They are still in the please, I need you phase. Hmm? And if one can say thank you and the other please, then you know who's going to end the relationship, right? So these three words, they tell you practically everything about the relationship through the representatives who are resonating with the truth, right? Who are not making things up. Because if you would have the partners there not represented, that's a different story, right? That is like family, how does it called? Like counseling, family counseling, right? You would have the man there and the woman, and they would, be emotionally involved and have perceptions about themselves and the other that are completely different to what is true actually, and they don't even know that they kind of buy into it themselves. And that's the difference in families constellations, where you have representatives who are connecting with the morphic field and they reveal the truth of the relationship. Okay, so what else do I want to say about the sentences of resolution? Let's have a look. So first of all, that is general remarks. The sentences of resolution, they are coming from the field, not from you as a facilitator, and also not from you as a representative. They are coming from the personality. They are coming from the field. Therefore, they are not the usual sentences you know. They are not what you would say in day-to-day use. They can sound quite odd, but they are coming from the field and they are acknowledging the truth, and that is what moves the souls. They don't come from the mind. That means also they cannot be thought up. You cannot think about, what do I want them to say now, right? That's not how it works. You're not looking like it at them and saying, I wonder what can I ask them to say, right? And that's a great relief, because you don't need to think about it. You just need to be open to the field to receive the information. However, you have learned and memorized the sentences of resolution that have been used for 40, 50 years, right? And in this moment, what you get from the field is only the information which one to use. And then you use it. So you do not need to think it up, but you do need to memorize it. This is what you do in this course. It is like, the plumber, when he's been called out to somebody's household because they have a water leak, yeah? He comes in and he's looking at the water leak, and he's not scratching his head and says, I wonder what I can do now, He knows when he looks at the leak what to do. Why? Because he learned it in his apprenticeship, right? And through his experience. And what he done then, he's opening up his toolbox, and he knows exactly what kind of spanner he needs to put this leak to an end. And that's the same what we do in family constellation. Yeah. We go in a situation, we know what we are looking at. We don't need to get out books and read it up. We know what we see. It's observation. And then we have a toolbox. That is what you learn in this course. That also means to memorize the sentence of resolution. These are the tools, like a spanner and a driver and whatnot. Yeah, these are all the sentences. So you open your toolbox and you go in there and you take out the tool that's needed to mend this family wound, as a plumber would fix a leak with this sentence. So always think about the toolbox, right? You don't need to know, like, you're carrying the toolbox with you, but you don't need to know what everything is in there. You open it and you grab in, and then you have the right tool. This is the guidance of the field. Okay. They are always concerned with either reconciliation, which we also call the flow of love, or honor and respect. Every single sentence of resolution is either letting the love flow, or it gives honor and respect to somebody in the family system. And now we know that acknowledging what it is the first step to let the love flow. So if you suggest to somebody who has taken somebody else's life, I murdered you, this is a center of reconciliation. Even if it doesn't sound like it, but this is the way that they find together. That kind of comes together what was apart before, which is the healing movement. And the other words that you might use, they are honor and respect. They are saying yes to the parents, for example, or to an ancestor, or asking the ancestor for blessings, or other sentences we will go through when we talk about the relationship to ancestors. Hmm? Every other sentence has no use in family constellation. Not as a sentence of resolution. You might use other sentences to find things out. That's okay, yeah? But they will not move the soul. They are there for inquiries, for your own inquiry, because you are like a detective when you do a family, when you facilitate a family. You have to find out the truth. It is not in front of you, because if it would be revealed before you even started, you wouldn't even have a problem. It is hidden. So you are like Columbo, you know. You are this odd person who walks around making useless things, but you know they are leading to the truth. You are asking these odd questions with suggesting to the representative some strange sentences, and nobody knows why you would want that. And then by the reaction of the representative, you got your information. What dynamic are you looking at? What relationship are you looking at? Where's the lack of love? Right? So these sentences are always very simple. They are short, simple, they are containing of just a few words. Hmm? They don't tell a story at all. Yeah, they speak directly to the soul, not to the mind. They are either true, yeah, reflecting the energy as is, or not true. If they are not true, then you suggest another sentence, often the opposite, and see if that is true. Now, an example. You see a representative looking at somebody else, and you think that is a perpetrator because you think you see aggression in him. And then you would suggest to this representative to say, I am angry, because that is what you observe. Yeah? And he says, I am angry. And then you ask this representative, is this true? And this representative might say, I don't think so. Actually, no, it doesn't feel right. And I actually don't feel angry at all. Then you could either ask, what do you feel? Hmm? Or if the representative doesn't know what they feel, you would suggest the opposite. What would be the opposite from anger? Maybe sadness. Yeah. So you would suggest to the representative, say, I am sad. And then you would ask again, is this true? And in 99%, you will get the answer, yes, that actually feels true. Hmm? And if it's also not true, then you go for something else, you know? So never give up. There, you will find the truth. Remember Columbo. Do you know who Columbo is? Oh, Janet, you're too young. He was a famous detective in the 80s or 90s or something like that. So, okay. So again, I said again and again, they are used since they can use them literally, these sentences, yeah? As we now know, the right sentence of resolution is depending on the relationship you're seeing. So sometimes you need to find out the relationship first with the use of the words. Hmm? So when you see two representatives looking at each other and there's a relationship, you can also find out, first of all, if it's a parent and child relationship by suggesting to the one who appears to be the child to say, please, I need you. I am small and you are big. I need you. Yeah? And then you ask them, is that true? And then they say, yes, it's totally true. Then you know, oh, here we got a child and here we got a parent, right? Easy. So now we know how to work with them. Or if the representatives say, actually, no, that doesn't feel, I can say it, but it doesn't feel right. to say that, then you know, okay, we have not a child either. Hang on, it's not so easy. We either have not a child-parent relationship, or we have an interrupted movement towards the parent. So, but still, we have only two options then, right? And not the whole world. Only two options. What a relationship you see there. Hmm? So let's look, let me check, when do we do a break now? In about 20 minutes. So let's look at the word yes. Yes, it's just a word, but it has a meaning that you can also describe with sentences of resolution. So sometimes a simple yes is all that is needed, and sometimes you need to suggest to say a yes in form of a whole sentence. Hmm? In order to move the souls. Now, what could that be? A yes is acknowledging what is in the situation that you are looking at. So that could be in a sentence, yes, I take this life with everything it entails. That is acknowledging what is, right? And that's a powerful sentence that Bert Hellinger uses a lot. I take this life even at the cost of yours. A powerful sentence acknowledging what is. Yeah. Or it is my death and my faith, and I alone carry it. By leading it to me, you are honoring my life and faith. That's also a very strong sentence of resolution. Everything just replacing a simple yes. So it is. But sometimes you need to describe the situation better so the representative can connect with it more on both sides to move the souls together. Yes, Rosemary, you have to, hang on, I go back. You have to unmute yourself. Oh,
can you give us an example
for
like when you would use one of these sentences? In what situation?
So, for example, when we have, let's look at a typical dynamic, which we call an entanglement. And of course, we talk about that later on as well. That means you have somebody who is suffering, let's call him the client, suffering an issue. And then the family constellation, it turns out he is entangled with an ancestor and suffering for him or her. So in order to clear this entanglement, you have to acknowledge it. Yeah. And an entanglement is acknowledged, for example, with by the entangler, that is the ancestor, it's my death and faith, and I alone carry it, meaning you, client, don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. By leaving it to me, you're honoring my life and faith. That's what the ancestor says to the client. And then the client has a great sense of relief because suddenly the truth comes out that it is not his or her faith to do that. Yeah. That the ancestor takes over responsibility. So these are in this situation would be the sentences where yes is spoken out as such. Yeah. And there are lots of more. I can't list them all, but you will hear them. Yeah. This is why we have the workshop, the 50 hours of a workshop, because you will hear them all the time. Yeah, from me. Then you know when, you know, now you know when I say that, why I say that, and then you understand it better.
Okay, thank you much.
Thank you. So then let's talk about when we are not applying, or when we are applying yes, and when we are probably not applying yes. Yeah, because also, although it is true that you help to move the souls along when you apply yes in the right moment, the right time, in the right relationship. There's also a situation where you definitely don't want to apply yes, because it will not only not move the souls, but maybe they back off even a little bit, right? So that is, for example, When in a relationship or a movement needs to be acknowledged, always a yes, of course, right? Because that is what it is. It's a yes. I acknowledge that that is whatever I see is what it is. Yeah. But when there is an unbalance or an entanglement is still observed, you're not acknowledging that as such because this is the one that is moving towards unity, right? So you don't want to say to an unbalanced relationship, yes. Hmm? You acknowledge only the situation one is in, hmm? Not the whole relationship, because this is the one that you want to move on to a balanced relationship. Hmm? And we apply yes in acknowledging what is, moving forward to taking the next step. We also apply yes in getting support of parent or ancestors. Hmm? But this is, remember, when we talk about parents, after, please, and thank you. Before, there is no yes from the child. But once it is there, then the child can apply yes to get support. Yes, as we said, beginning of a relationship, that's crucial to apply the yes. And when we not apply yes is when the child is still in the need for love. So as a beginner, it is sometimes you want to rush it and you are so excited that the child representative can say please, that you rush it over the thank you to the yes. Hmm? But that is not good for the movement of the soul. The please needs to come from the heart, and that is not easy. And it is very unlikely that this can happen in the first constellation for somebody. Yeah. Hmm? So take time, don't rush it, wait with the yes until it is really appropriate. Hmm? And the child is completely mature and able to separate itself from the parents, go its own way, be able to say thank you, and then there's the yes. Another case where you do not suggest to say yes is when the victim cannot look at the perpetrator. Now, in victim-perpetrator relationship, we have the problem, like socially, that it is perceived as something that we should not agree to. Hmm? But when we are agreeing to a victim-perpetratorship, we are not agreeing that the perpetrator was right to do something. No, we are agreeing to the fact that it exists, the relationship. That is a completely different agreeing. Yeah. However, we can only suggest to the perpetrator or to the victim to say yes to the other when they are looking at each other, because before they have not acknowledged their relationship. Yeah. And that is maybe a mistake that happens a lot. I would say not only in beginner situation to facilitators, that they ask victim and perpetrator to relate to each other before they are ready. Hmm? And to move the souls of a victim or perpetrator towards each other can be because of the history and because of the hurt that has been done and the shame and the guilt that is behind the emotion of anger and sadness and all of that, can be slow and needs careful steps. Yeah. So the yes is not appropriate. However, when the victim can look at the perpetrator, why? Because you have suggested to say, for example, please look at me, to the perpetrator. No. And that is like the sudden waking up of the victim, say, oh my gosh, there is a perpetrator and we are in a relationship through this act of violence. That is important, that the victim, it's often the other way around, that the perpetrator cannot look at the victim, by the way. So either or, they have to relate to each other first. And then if they can say, yes, we belong together, because that is a healing sentence in a victim and perpetrator relationship, the sentence of resolution, then they can say yes to each other. Hmm? Because in a victim perpetrator relationship, that's also the lake situation, right? Like in a romantic relationship. It's not nobody superior. It's not that the perpetrator is superior to the victim, like a father to the child, right? I mean, unless it is a father and child relationship, of course. But if it's a victim perpetrator that are not related, then it's always a lake situation. So they are equal, right? They have to meet on a soul level as even as alike. Hmm? So the yes towards parents would be a sentence like, I honor and respect you as my parents. Hmm? That's kind of acknowledging what is. That's the yes towards the parents. Or you are the big one and I am the small one is also a yes, because they're acknowledging that the child is small and needy, and the parent is big and in whatever control, if you will, right? I honor you and your life journey soul purpose is a beautiful yes that we use a lot. Hmm? Because this is not easy, by the way, to say that, because often somebody else's life journey is not aligned with ours. So we wish that they would do something else and would go somewhere else. But that is not the case. So to say to somebody, I honor you and your life journey or soul purpose is healing for each of them in the relationship. And you feel it in yourself if somebody says that to you, how nourishing on one side and how free it feels on the other side. If somebody like a friend or if maybe the parents or a teacher or whoever would say something to you, which doesn't happen very often, but if you feel into yourself, into your heart, how that would feel if somebody says that, it feels really nourishing and caring. Because the opposite is this, comes to my mind, the what's the term, mitleid, pity or empathy, right? That would make somebody else suffering my own. Yeah. And we think that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. It takes the power away from somebody else's. It's not our life journey. The suffering of somebody else is not our suffering. Yeah. It is theirs. And we have to honor that and respect it and not make it try to go away, which will never be possible by trying to make it our own, right? That's not possible. And Janet, you probably see that a lot with your elderly people, right? That you cannot help them just because you feel as down as they may feel. That's not helping them. You want to be cherishing them and say, you know, um, yes, okay, you are old and you might die soon and you may end up in pain and you might feel lonely. That's okay. That's your life. That's not your life. That's their life. Yeah. But I'm here for you. I honor that. I honor that and I'm here for you. That helps so much more than feeling pity for somebody else. Some actually call that I would also so say empathy is in the same direction. Empathy is not something we are aspiring to, although it seems to be a nice word, but if you look at it closely, it's not so nice, no? Because you always want to respect somebody. You are never in somebody else's shoes. Yeah, you only walk in your own shoes. And you can never know what's going on in somebody else. And trying to pretend that you know that and you feel that and you feel with that is actually quite stepping over the boundaries, of a personal integrity of somebody else. Because you can't. Nobody can do that. Hmm? And being an empath is something completely different. We don't want to talk about that, and that's not what we use in family constellation anyhow. No, we don't need that. So, oh, let's see. I need to go a little bit quicker. What goes on in between the two of you has nothing to do with me, is also very healing, yes, especially from the child towards both parents. If the child is in a family constellation represented and both parents and between the parents is a relationship issue going on, then the child can let go of an entanglement or taking sides of one of the parents, by acknowledging that what goes on between the two of you has nothing to do with me. It's a very strong, energetically strong sentence of resolution towards the parents. What else do we have? I acknowledge the love between you. That would be the other side. So if they are not in a quarrel, if they feel, why would you say that? If some two people are very much in love, they sometimes don't see their children. They have no room for the children. They are focusing on themselves. Yeah. And in a family constellation, you can have a mother and father who are busy with themselves, and the child is hardly seen, right? And then for the child, the healing sentence of resolution is, I acknowledge the love between you, and I'm not in the place to judge that, you know? The yes towards parents, a very, very, very strong yes. In the sense of acknowledging what is to suggest to the child to say, without you, I won't exist. Because that's just the truth, right? That is the yes, you have given me life. That's easy. And although it seems so obvious and so plain, it moves mountains in a family constellation. Hmm? You gave me life is the same sentence, just different words. And then there's other words of acknowledging what a child is towards the parents that you can think of, maybe as a homework or whatnot, to think of how you would describe it, but stay with this example sentence, this short, to the point, no descriptive, not descriptive, acknowledging what is. Hmm? So if you put that in your notebook and think about that, maybe tomorrow you can give me a couple of more sentences that would fit in this. So the yes towards children from parents to children is, I give you my blessings on your way, right? And that is actually very strong, because it also means I acknowledge you have your own way and you don't have to follow our way, meaning the family system. And how many families expect the children to follow their ways, you know, to do the same as they did, or better in the same, to do the to continue to do, you know, farming or taking over the business or whatever, right? Regardless if the child wants it or not. Like, it's a kind of family tradition, nobody is going to be asked. Now, in this, when the child doesn't want that by heart, then the sentence of resolution, the family constellation from a parent towards a child with a very strong impact would be, I give you my blessings on your way. Hmm? Or, you are free to do whatever you want to do. Hmm? And the moment the child hears that from the parent, there's a big relief often. Of course, it needs to be true. You always have to ask the representative, is it true? Right? So we are not, you know, suggesting the sentences or words because we want to influence the relationship. We want to check if the family constellation so far has worked in this way that we can actually that we can actually see improvement in the movement of the soul. Hmm? My love will always be with you is also beautiful yes towards children. I will always look at you with love, same thing, different wordings. I'm here for you when you need me is a big yes towards children, meaning you are free to do what you want, but if you need me, I'm here. So whatever. And then think of your own sentences, yes towards child, in the I am form. Hmm? And if you You don't need to do that, but if you want to do that, then we can talk about that tomorrow. Okay, now we have time for an exercise, and we do the exercise before we go in the break. And because it's only you guys, so there's only one group, it's Rosemary and Janet. Yay! So what we do is, I want you to practice to apply the word yes. Okay? So you're in a group, the duration is 10 minutes, and you are swapping roles. So each one has 5 minutes more or less, and one is the client and the other is representing a parent or a child or a partner. You can choose whatever you want, right? And then you're connecting with each other like, to the morphogenetic field. You observe the dynamic from the one who is the client, right? You're observing yourself, if you will, and the representative of the other person you have chosen from your family system. And then you decide who has to say yes. Is it you or is it the other one? And it's just to practice observation and see or feel or receive the information who is the right person to say yes, either you or the other. And then you suggest to speak it out loud from the bottom of your heart 3 times. And then you have to recap, is this true or not? And if it doesn't feel true, then you suggest probably that the other person say yes. And then check in if that is true for the other person. And if it's true, then you know it's either or, which is great. So then you know maybe which relationship you have in front of you. And all this information will come to you naturally, as it does through the morphogenetic field. So you don't need to think about it too hard. It's playful. It's an exercise. There's no marks. There's nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing. So you can play around with that. Yeah. Any questions? All good? Okay. So we do this. Rosemary, you have to unmute yourself.
I have a question. So in a way, do we make someone up, or I don't really get?
You don't need to make somebody up. You go in the exercise, you represent yourself, and then you ask Janet to represent your mother. Okay? Or you ask Janet to represent your partner. Or you ask Janet to represent your father. Or you ask Janet to represent your sibling. Whoever comes to your mind you want to see in this exercise. Okay. Yeah? And then you are observing yourself, how you feel, and Janet, how she's representing your family member. And then you feel into it. And then you decide if you want to say yes to Janet as the representative of the person you chose, or if you want to ask her to say yes to you. And then when this yes, you say it 3 times, see if it comes from the heart, and then you feel when you say yes, if it's true for you and true for Janet as a representative, or if you ask Janet to say yes, then you ask her after if it felt true or not. And that's all. You don't need to take any conclusions at home. You don't need to know. It's just to practice, to observe and apply the word yes. Easy. And then you swap. So I put the timer on, max 5 minutes, but if when you're ready, you can come back, right? You can come back from a breakout room when you want, right? I'm not quite sure about that actually. Yeah, you can. Okay, so I put you in a breakout room and I leave you there for maximum of 10 minutes, and then I see you. How was it? Who wants to start sharing?
I can start. So we started first with Janet being Janet. I was Janet's mother.
Mhm.
So in a way, uh, I tried to say the yes, and I noticed in a way I was a little bit reluctant.
Mhm. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Yes.
But then in a way, Janet tried to say the please.
Mhm.
And maybe you have to ask Janet what she thought about that.
And
So
well,
so
there,
Janet said please, and then wait a sec, and then what you, Rosemary, how was your yes then after that?
No,
No.
was
Okay.
no, it
All right.
never was.
Interesting. Okay. Janet, over to you.
and there was like, it felt like a blockage. I was like, no,
Mhm.
like blockage, like instantly it was like a no.
Yeah.
It felt more like a blockage of rejection.
Yes.
Like I didn't even hesitate. Like I didn't think about, I just said no.
Yes.
And it was really interesting
Yeah.
because
It is.
it was like 10 patients for this.
Mm.
But it didn't really improve my yes. In a way,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was always reluctant.
That's good. That's great because now you know, in observing that, I now know as a facilitator that we have a row of interrupted movements in the maternal line here that we have
Yeah.
to work with. Yeah. So in a workshop setting, and we will certainly do that, Janet, multiple times throughout the duration of the whole course, you will work through that. Yeah. And in module 4, we will also talk about the theory behind it, so you know about the dynamic which you are facing here, right? So for me, as a facilitator, everything is already clear by what you said. Everything is, I see everything. Because the way that Rosemary said, as a representative of your mother, how she's reluctant to say yes, and the way that you said how you're reluctant to say please, and what how strong this no was. Um, for me, the relationship is revealed from the soul level, right? Not what you normally do with your mother, but on the soul level. So I would know exactly what to do as a facilitator now. So that's great, and you will learn that too. So it's great that you have experienced how strong that is, this knowing, is it true or not true. It's very, very obvious, isn't it? Very good. And the
Yeah.
other way around.
And I represented Rosemary's father,
Hmm.
and it goes first with yes, correct?
Did you say yes?
So I said yes. And for Rosemary, it was very overwhelming, right?
Hmm.
First, it was I couldn't really say the please, but when you said the yes, and then you said I am your father, then it was very overwhelming, and then I could say please.
Wow.
Yeah,
Great.
I was very reluctant. Not reluctant. I could say please, but it was not flowing. But
Hmm.
and then why Janet said yes, and then why she said I am your father. Then wow, this was really something. And then why she tried something else and she said I accept you, and this sounded wrong.
Okay. But the one thing that was true, acknowledging what is, I am your father,
Yeah,
already moved, the soul, which isn't that amazing? And great job, Janet, that you found the sentence which, to start moving the soul, because this is exactly what we do. We find this one sentence that
I
ignites
didn't
it.
find that one with Janet. I didn't find the one with Janet's mother. Maybe I should have
No,
said
that's too
that.
early. That's too early. So that's a different relationship between you and your father than Janet and her mother. So that's, you can't compare that. Hmm?
Yeah, and Janet was very, very strict with the no.
Yeah, yeah. See. Oh, that's fantastic. So thank you for sharing. I just emailed with Reem. She will join us for the second half. She couldn't manage to get the link for some reason. And I will see you in 10 minutes. I put
Okay.
the timer on and I see you get some refreshment and I see you back.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, okay, here we go. All right. So, what we are looking at now is yes, in different relationships, relationship we haven't talked about yet. So it's not the yes in the parent-child relationship, and it's also not the yes in equal relationships. There are other relationships we need to know how to apply the word yes. So first of all, to the ancestors, a yes as a sentence of resolution would be, I honor you and your death, because ancestors are dead, right? And as always, we are acknowledging what is in the most obvious and direct way we can. Yeah. So we say, I honor you and your death. I give you a place in my heart. Right? Very simple, and it's very, very powerful at the same time. Then the next one would be, you would laugh about that, in relationship to God. But yes, a lot of people have a relationship to God. And I will actually tell you an example from the family constellation I was facilitating 2 days ago. We had a situation where it was obvious that in this a family system, religion played a big role. And in this case, it was the sixth generational grandmother who was fixated on God, on her God, you know. So I chose a representative for God, and I asked one of the male participants to come, and he was quite, petite, quite small in size. So I asked him to stand on a chair. So he was tall and overlooking everyone. And when then the great 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 grandmother, I turned her around and gave her, the view to God, she was absolutely in heaven. Right? It was exactly what she wanted. And interestingly, from this point, acknowledging what is, this is what she needed. She needed to look at this God, that, at the God of her religion, and see how he is overtowering her and everybody else. In this moment, everybody else were able to turn away from it and relate to each other, to do the healing movement of the souls. Not this great, great, great mother, but everybody else. So this was a great movement towards healing. And then when they all united away from the God towards love, the love that in their family system, the great, great, great grandmother was alone with her God, and she was always looking over her shoulder to the family, like this the whole time. And I said, no, 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 you look at God. This is what counts. The only thing that counts for you. And she was looking at God, and she got like, but I really want to know what's going on there. And then I said to her, you have to decide. It's either this or that. And then I left her alone and went to the group who were united. And then she turned around away from her God and moved over there and never looked back to her God. So this whole moving healing for the soul started to adding a representative for God. That was the missing link. So she could acknowledge what is for her true. That's everything that counts was the God, and no love for the children, and nothing, no care, nothing that's us. Nothing of this matters. Only her love for God. Yeah. And this is not the end of a constellation. That's the beginning, right? This is what makes the initial movement towards healing for this sixth generation of mother. So you have always to think outside of the box and think, okay, you can have, everybody can have a relationship with almost everything or anybody, yeah? And you just need to find that one that is important in this moment. So if there's a relationship to God, what is the appropriate thing to say? I am you and you are me, because the true God resides in oneself, right? But that is the relationship to the true God. The God I was talking about, the religious God, that was a super father figure, right? That was not the God I'm talking here. That was the super father figure where she had to either decide with or against. If you want to place God as a representative for the true God, then it is I am you and you are me, or now I see you in me. That is the relationship to the true God. Or to a victim, we talked about that before, now I see your pain. Right? And not only the perpetrator needs to can say that, everybody can say that. Everyone from the family system who is in this constellation where the victim is involved plays a role, can say to the victim, now I see your pain, because this is true. This is a yes in the relationship to the victim. Then to a perpetrator, yeah, the victim would say to the perpetrator, you belong to me, I belong to you, we are the same. And that sounds crazy, but this is true. If you ask the representatives of the victim and of the perpetrator, they both say from their heart, that is true. And this is why the Bert Hellinger in the 80s and 90s, when he started to do that public, has had so many critics. Because on a social level or in the social mind, this cannot be, how is that even possible? But we're not talking about morals, we're not talking about judgment, we are talking about that, what is true, that we can acknowledge, and that moves the souls. And in the relationship of the victim to a perpetrator, that is true. So the sentence to remember here is, you belong to me, I belong to you, we are the same. Yes, in relationship to an advantage giver is, I'm honoring my debt to you. Because that's what it is. The advantage giver has not received any remuneration, there is no balance for whatever he has given. So it's the sentence of truth, or the yes in the relationship is, I honor my debt, no, not death. This is a tongue breaker to you, because this is just what it's true. Simple, and it's very powerful. Remember, just for Reem, in this little exercise that Janet and Rosemary just did with the yes towards the parent, where Janet was the father of Rosemary, yeah. The simple sentence that Janet said was, I am your father, which sounds like nothing. It's so obvious, but that, Rosemary, has moved the relationship, right? So it's the simple, clear words. And I also I suggested to everyone today to try to do a daily exercise to acknowledging what is in your environment. You don't need to talk to people, they shouldn't hear you, but you would practice to speak out loud in a clear, short sentence what is. For example, you wake up, you look in the mirror and say, it is another day. Or you look at the wall and say, this wall is white, loud, yeah? Or you drive to work and what was the sentence? You drive to work and you see a homeless person. I don't know whether that exists in Dubai, but you see it was in Sacramento. I was picturing it, but it's probably also in Dubai when you drive in certain areas. I don't know. Let's assume you see a homeless person, yeah, who is sick and lying on the street and dirty, you would say to him, not to him, he doesn't hear it. To you, you say it out loud in your car. You are dirty. Not judgmental, no emotion, just acknowledging what you see. Yeah, a statement. Or you see a skinny street dog, you say, you are dying, you know, just acknowledging what is and practicing to talk like it. So when you need it, you are used to it, because it's not easy to use these words of power in a family constellation situation if you are not used to it, because socially you don't do it, obviously, right? But here in this work, you need to do it. And this is why it's good to practice in the car, when you're alone at home, under the shower, whatever. It's important to say it out loud, not to think it, to say it out loud. So you hear yourself saying it. Okay. What else do we have? We have also the yes in a relationship to a disadvantage giver. Now I see your desperation. Because that's true. The person who lost everything, yeah, is in despair for sure. It's life-threatening, you know. So that is all another word or another sentence for the simple acknowledging what is represented by yes. Okay, let's close this chapter for today about the words, and now we are looking at dynamics and family systems. So we talked about in module 1 about belonging, conscience, guilt, and destiny, and how they form the three basic dynamics. And now we talk about how they form the three basic dynamics in the family system. And the good news is you only ever need, if you want to do the minimal work, or if you want to do the great work with a minimal amount of effort, you use only 3 words. Yes, thank you, please. You look at 3 dynamics. The one I will teach you, you know. You only look at 3 relationships, right? We have already looked at. So it's always ever only 3, and we all can count to 3. So we always can be sure we are in control of the family constellation by making it simple. Yeah, because you can make it simple. So first of all, the first dynamic is what we call atonement for my sins. It's translated from Bert Hellinger's Vergeltung für meine Sünden, and it's just a literal translation. We will talk about that now, and it's related to the word yes. Tomorrow, we will talk about the second dynamic in family systems, which is called rather me than you, or in German, lieber ich als du. And this is related to the part please, to the word please, which we do in part 2, which is tomorrow. And then the third dynamic, which we do on Sunday, New Zealand time, Sunday evening, it is I follow you, ich folge dir nach. And that is related to the word thank you. So we are looking now, which are, so all these dynamics are an actual breach of the orders of love. And this is why they will come up in the family constellation. Needs to be seen, acknowledged, and then move forward to healing. And for all these 3 dynamics, we need an entanglement. This is why we also look at what an entanglement is. Also easy again, 3 persons are forming an entanglement. So you get the picture. You only need to count to 3 in family constellation. Isn't that good news? So atonement for my sins. What does it mean in family constellations? It is a violation of the first order of love, which is concerned with belonging, conscience, and guilt. First of all, we need to ask ourselves, what are sins? So I would like to ask the question to you. Tell me, each of you in short words, what do you think is a sin? I start with Rosemary. You're muted. Here we go.
I think it's what we think is a sin. For example, bad language. If this makes you feel bad, then this is a sin for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't do anything to you, then bad language is not a sin. I think it's up to us what we say is a sin.
So we're making up sin through our perception.
What I would say.
Okay, very
know.
good. Yeah, that's it's a good interesting aspect, definitely. Thank you for sharing. Janet, what do you think is sin for you? Please unmute.
Sorry. A sin for me is like feeling guilty of doing something bad.
So sin for you, yeah, is connected with the feeling of guilt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a judgment that something is bad.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So we got already 3 parts that forms a sin: an emotion and an action, and the judgment, what this action, it's good or bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Thank you. And Reem, what do you think?
For me, like, I mean, I do like both of their answers, but for me, I would think that a sin is when you cause pain or hurt or disadvantage to someone else, or maybe yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then yes, and like it's both, like if it's someone else, so you're disadvantaging that person, and you also carry that guilt with you, feeling ashamed and like feeling bad that you've caused pain to someone else.
Yes, very good. So this is the key to sin. It's an emotion, and it's the emotion of guilt and or shame. That's important. Without this, we only have an action. Lots of people hurting other people and don't feel guilt about it. No. But if we are perceiving this or if we are looking at the action with the emotion of guilt or shame, now by definition, we feel in a religious context, we have sinned. Yeah. And this again has to do with conscience, right? If our family thinks whatever we've done, and even taking somebody's life, is a good thing because we are from a family of criminals that think you make money with killing people, then it's not a sin. Why? Because you don't feel guilty, right?
You probably get rewarded for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You get rewarded for it. You get money for it. You're great.
You're a hero. Yeah.
Big deal for you. Yeah. And then on the other hand, when you're very religious and for you the law is you don't take anybody else's life, and then you are careless, let's say, you are careless, you let your car park with the key in, and a 5-year-old kid climbs into the car and turns the key and drives itself into death, right? Then you think you are guilty because you left the key in there in the car, and you will suffer greatly, because you couldn't protect the life of this child, right? So it is this emotion of guilt or shame that creates a sin in the environment where we are conditioned to believe what is right or wrong. So by talking about this, you immediately find out that objectively a sin cannot exist, right? We make it so with our conscience, with where we come from and how we perceive an action. So now that we know objectively a sin doesn't exist, it is only coming into existence with the connection to the emotion guilt or shame. We know when we take the emotion of guilt or shame away, the sin goes away too, right? And that is the healing movement, to take this idea of there is even the possibility of being a sinner away by revealing that the emotion, guilt, or shame also doesn't exist. It is fake emotion created by the conscience of your family system. It is not a true emotion, you know. It is an emotion that is bound to your family conscience. Now, when we have a dynamic in a family system atoning for my sins, that can mean two things. Either somebody did something and thinks it was sinful, which is not very likely to come up in a family constellation in as such, because more likely is that this person, who we can call the client, has a repeated pattern in their family where this dynamic was before, and he is simply entangled with this forefather or ancestor who has sinned, right? Who has done an action that was perceived as sin, and now the family wound is created through this, and a descendant is entangling with this ancestor to reveal it, to heal it, to let the love flow again. And what is he revealing in the family constellation? That sin does not exist. He doesn't reveal that this action has happened. There was an action, somebody caused the death of somebody else, that's fine. That's a victim perpetrator situation. Doesn't make it a sin, right? The conscience makes it a sin. And that is so strong embedded in the, let's say, the emotional body of a person and the whole family, that it is not revealed unless in a family constellation the truth comes to light. And that's a beautiful work. Here it can be revealed because the facilitator sees it as what it is and applies the moving, the words of power that moves the souls toward unity. So when we are perceiving this dynamic, we have to think in multiple generations. Because the sin is created by the family system, not by the person you are working with. Yeah, it's, so to speak, just a messenger of the sin, that is created in the family system. So, talking about that, how do we work with it? We have to reveal that guilt is the feeling of guilt is nothing else as a superego. Why is that? How can that be? Think about this magic of the morphogenetic field and how it always applies the right things at the right moment for every one of us to do the things we need in our life to move forward, yeah, towards higher consciousness, towards higher vibration, to more love. Yeah. So every step you take in your life is kind of destined. Yeah. I mean, we have free will. We will talk about that another time, but it is somewhat destined, right? So is somebody else. So if somebody else is the victim of an accident, it's not random. Do you believe it's random? I should probably ask that. Hands up if you think the victim is randomly chosen by randomness, by, I don't know even by whom. No, of course not. Everyone who is part of an action has on another level, of course, not consciously, chosen to be there, right? So how can the one who is driving the car, who's killing a kid, yeah, be on a soul level, I'm just talking about the soul, responsible for it? When this kid's soul decided to want to leave the body at that time and at that place. So I like to call it, completely unreligiously, the hand of God. The person is just the hand of God, right? That's it. So is the child pushed into whatever, the car, right? That's the hand of God. So if you look from a soul level at that, you know there is no room for guilt. It's a construct by the ego, right, to create a sin. Hmm? Can you follow me? Great. Awesome. Now that we have revealed that it is driven by the ego and we are we are not concerned with ego personalities and family constellations. Yeah, it would just get us astray, just stories, has nothing to do with the healing we want to administer here. Yeah, we can reveal that there is no need for atonement. Hmm? Because there's no sin, because there is no feeling of guilt or shame. It's all constructed. So who has to atone for what? Nothing. And that is the healing movement for the soul that reveals it. However, the interesting thing in the family constellation is not the one you are working with has to understand that the one behind it, the forefather, the ancestor, right, who has created this sin with his guilt or her guilt. So don't be fooled by thinking the client you're working with, when they understand, oh, there was no guilt at play, that they are free. They are not. They are still bound through entanglement to the original sin of the forefather. So in a family constellation, you have to go there. So you need a minimum of three, which is the victim, we call it victim, the perpetrator who is suffering, from this idea of having sinned, and the forefather who was the one who has really sinned, who has created this mind construct that there is a conscience, that it doesn't allow you to do that because you are in charge of it, because your ego is doing it. As if you would have a choice. So, what is the healing word here if you see that? What do you think? Yeah, Rim, I could hear you, although your mic was off. It's a yes. Acknowledging what is, right? It is acknowledging not only that this thing happened, whatever it was, but also that the sin is a mind construct that creates an emotion of guilt that is then also only attached to an ego. So the healing word is yes. And the good thing is, you do not need to explain that, and you should not explain all of this. This is a training course. You will never explain all of this in a family constellation. You would see all of this, and you would suggest to the client you are working with, to the representative, to say yes to the forefather. Yes, I see through everything. Yes, I see how this all works. Yes, and I see this doesn't work. That is the healing word. And of course, you can then use some sentences that replaces the yes if it feels better. They are more specific to the situation, whatever it is. The healing movement is towards unity, of course, right? So the original wound needs to be healed. So the entangled person is free. So the original wound is the forefather who thought has sinned, yeah, to unite with whoever was the victim of whatever he has done, deliberately or accidentally. And then we are healing it like a victim perpetrator. Relationship is the same. So we would suggest them to say, look at each other, of course, and say, we belong together. So these dynamic atonement for my sins has many faces, of course, right? So it's just a word to describe the dynamic. It can look quite simple in a family constellation or more complex. That you will see. It is, however, the first dynamic that is leading to disease, accidents, suicides, and death, right? Especially suicides and fatal accidents that are repetitive are a strong indicator for this dynamic. Because if there is this notion of atonement for sins, it is always, I give my life. I atone with my life. So I feel reparation for my sins, which are the sins of my ancestor, by the way, but they don't know that. They feel a reparation when they give up their own life through suicide, through a fatal accident, through a very severe disease where they are suffering, right? And then they feel good about it. That's the magic. That's when somebody comes to the family constellation and he talks about like he has MS or something like that, and he smiles at the same time. Right there, he doesn't need to say anything else. That's the first dynamic. They feel good about that because they atone. And that makes them feel good. So, as I said, it is most often an entanglement. Of course, it can be personal guilt, but don't stop there. You always have to look what was behind, because chances that is a repetitive pattern is high. Yeah, the chance that this client is starting a family pattern, a family wound with his own actions is very small. Because it is not embedded in the family soul. Normally it takes multiple generations. Yeah. So there are some issues, especially in romantic relationships and things, you can work in the now, but most of us working in the past, if you will, in a family constellation, right? It's intergenerational healing is in the forefront. Other than romantic relationships and interrupted movements towards the mother or the father. These are between two only. But then everything else is most likely 3 entanglements and goes way back. The deep love for the entangled person is the one who has caused the death of another person is felt as own guilt. So the sin here is not the same sin that the ancestor has, felt or created, but it becomes its own emotion. And sometimes, and that is actually interesting, and what you can observe, that the originator, let's say the perpetrator, doesn't feel the sin as much as the client in the now, right? That's interesting, because often the perpetrator is kind of disconnected from his deed, if you will, but the descendant is not, so he's creating his own sensation of guilt or shame, for that matter. Atonement is, in this case, to look at the dead and release his or her destiny with love, right? That is the true atonement. That's not the atonement that the client wants with sacrificing his own life. That's the wrong atonement. The healing atonement, however, is to look at the death and release the destiny with love, saying, I acknowledge your death. It is your destiny. Remember, it's not somebody's fault. It's your destiny. And I see that. And I acknowledge that. Yeah. And that is true love, because it takes courage to do that and say, I acknowledge that. I see that. And then you would suggest that to say either to the representative of the client or to the person with whom he or she is entangled. You see in the constellation which one is has the stronger impact on. All right, what else is coming up? We have finding the real victim perpetrator relationship and let them face each other is always the key, right? So in family constellation, we always think around the corner, which is right in front of us, is only a hint, a way shower to what's behind in the unseen. Because if it would be already obvious, it would be easy to heal, and the family soul wouldn't have so many generations of trauma to find the healing movement. It would be much easier. But because it is not in the open, it's not what you see instantaneously, it becomes hidden. So our job is to find that what is missing. The person that is missing, the dynamic that is not shown yet. And that is the true victim perpetrator. In this example, for example, it's a true victim perpetrator situation way back, generations back. Okay, we talked about what are sins. Then I don't want to overwhelm with information, but in this atonement for my sins dynamic, you often have a combination with one of the other dynamics, which could be either rather me than you, or I follow you, right? So that's coming up sometimes in family constellation. What is denied in this dynamic? That's always a good question, because something, remember the block or the rock that is in the river stream of love that is blocking it, right? If you think of this picture that is plugged in there, that you need to replace, right? You can also ask yourself in this situations, what is denied here? What is missing? What is not given? To let the love flow, to let the river stream go, flow. It is the relation, a loving relationship with the victim. Because the emotion of guilt and shame makes them embarrassed and they want to look away from the victim. And they rather feel very pity of themselves to the extent they want to take their lives, or they have eating disorders to starve themselves to death, or they come in situations where they always have these accidents, right? And it's a very selfish thing, yeah? Rather, they are focusing on their own than looking at the victim. So to reveal that and to let them look at the victim where it belongs, this is the true atonement and the healing movement. What needs to be acknowledged in this situation? Acknowledging was it. Every constellation starts and actually ends with acknowledging what is. So what needs to be acknowledged in this situation in a dynamic atonement for my sins? What do you think? Any ideas? Reem?
Acknowledge the destiny.
Yes, the destiny of the victim and perpetrator, yes. And maybe something more? Something we can add? Yes, Rosemary?
Maybe what happened?
Yes, in terms of like, I was that. Yes, what we started to say, yeah, I was that, I did that, I killed you. Yeah. That's always great. Yeah. Very good.
Is it since
You have
it's to say like we are the same, acknowledge that they are not bond, like they are destined together. I can't remember the wording that you used.
Yeah, that's exactly the word, Reem, that they are destined to be together. Because this act of violence is binding, right? It's binding the souls to each other. Yeah, so that is true, because the sin, if you will, is forming a lasting relationship over the death on the soul level. The eye contact and the eye contact needs to be established so they are able to acknowledge each other, right? So they were looking away from each other their whole life and lives and lifetimes and generations, blah. Now what needs to be acknowledged, that there is a relationship through making them having eye contact and seeing each other for the first time. And then what is also great is uh, sometimes it's needed for a true atonement for non-existing sins. So for true atonement means to balance out an unbalanced relationship, breach of the orders of love, with do something good to honor the victim. So put up whatever, a little shrine, or donate something to a good cause in the name of the victim, or something, That's much better than trying to take their own life. And not trying to pay reparations for a sin with, a disease. Or being lifelong alone. So if you have these cases, especially if you have participants in the workshop who have probably exceeded, their 60s, and they never had a relationship, they've always been alone, they never had a really relationship. This is like dying, this is atonement for somebody's sins, to not allow themselves to have a lasting relationship at all. So that's also a hint to look at this dynamic. When does this dynamic happens is so everything that is perceived as a sin in this family system, from the conscience of the family system. So when a mother is aborting a child, although it's probably religiously not allowed or something like that, in a war situation, often, of course, a crime when you are not part of this Sicily mafia, where it is not a sin, but in other circumstances, the crime would be considered a sin. An accident, as I just said with these example with the key in the car, that can be perceived as sin. So there's lots of ways to turn a normal happening into a sin, right? What heals is dedication, devotion, and commitment towards the victim or a good cause that is representing the victim. That is healing. So often in a family constellation, we can heal it with the one word at the right moment, in the right relationship, that heals it. Sometimes you would suggest to the client to stay with it a little bit longer and do something good. Especially when the client is religious, it's hard. They come out of the constellation, everything is good, and then they adopt their belief systems back, So it's a little bit like a falling back. Then you have to give them something they can hold on to. And that would be something, they can devote or dedicate their life to, a good cause, instead of taking their life or trying to take their life. The feeling of guilt is a substitute to avoid going through the pain. It's a selfish notion from the ego, because this guilt that is constructed is not allowing the host, if I say so, the host of this emotion, to go through the pain. That is the original wound, the pain of the victim and the perpetrator. Sometimes actually the perpetrator feels pain too. And doing what's needed, connecting with the victim through love. Okay, let's see, is there something more coming? No, now it's the exercise. So any questions about this? Of course, you can ask me the questions the whole year, if you just write it down in your notebook when it comes to you. But if you have right now one, then I'm happy to talk about it. All good? Okay, so we have an exercise. Oh, that was a little bit up. So we're doing you three in one group. So you're all together. So it's a group of three, and you are discussing what means guilt for you. When did you feel guilty? Why felt guilty? Yeah. And you have now we are a group of 3, so let's say 3 minutes each, so it's 9 minutes in total. Yeah, and so you swap every 3 minutes. I send you a message to swap, so you know. And as a listener, the 2 who are not speaking, do not comment. Practice active listening. Listening means not commenting, because then you're not listening, you are thinking of your own position. But if you're active listening, you're just listening without commenting. So you're just taking it in neutral. Yeah? Okay. And then we come back and we talk about it. And if we still have time, I guide you through a meditation. And if we don't have time, we do it tomorrow or another time. Yeah? Okay. So I let you into a breakout room now. Why is Reem not here? Hang on. Let me. Why is she not there? That is bizarre. Recreate. Hang on.
She is here.
Now,
She is here.
yeah, I know, but not in the room. Hang on. I found it. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Here you go.
We were done. We didn't know how to come back.
Yeah, where are we?
You left us in the abyss, Maya. Like, help us, please. You're on mute.
Where am I? Hello?
We can see and we can hear you, Rose.
You can't, can you see me?
I can see you and I can hear you both.
I can't see you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you guys, but like, I would politely ask Maya if you're okay with doing the meditation today, so I can attend it with you live. If you have time, and the others.
Sorry.
do it
Say
in
that
live.
again. I didn't hear that, Reem. Say it again.
You said that you wanted to do meditation, if not today, some other time. And I was going to say, like, I would really, really appreciate it if I could be present with you when you do it. So if you can do it today rather than listen to it, because of the energy, you know, it's different than when you're with you.
Of course,
Then
yeah. I'm sure we can. We still have 10 minutes out, right? Nobody's in a rush. Yeah. Okay. First of all, before we do the meditation, please share how was the little exercise for you? What did you find out about yourself?
I would say, like, usually for me, like, I know that guilt is definitely, I would feel guilty when I with someone else, like other with people, but not for myself. If I should have done something to others, but not for myself, like if the same happens to me, I wouldn't feel guilty. But it's usually connected that it's towards need. I should have done something, or shouldn't have done something to others.
So you feel guilty for what you not have done,
or I should have done when I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, for
So you're
example,
not
you were sick
feeling
and I should have
guilty
visited.
for what you did, but for what you think you should have done. So what you not did.
No, I mean, like, I'm harsher towards myself. Like, for example, if you are sick and I didn't make you a soup, I feel, oh, I think I should have made you a soup. But if I'm sick and I don't get myself a soup, that's fine. I don't mind about myself.
So
like,
I repeat, Reem, I got it.
Yeah.
Just to be absolutely clear, you are not guilty for your actions, you're guilty for your inactions.
Both.
What you
Both.
not have done. So tell
Yes.
me an example where you are guilty for what you have done.
Like, for example, something that I have done. Oh.
See? Nailed it. That's my observation. That is interesting kind of guilt. Yeah. And I'm not commenting on that. I just want you to acknowledge it.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you stay with it, you be fully aware of it.
Yeah.
and see what it makes with you, thinking, okay, I feel guilt for something that has never happened. Yeah. Okay.
So that is something, yeah, definitely. That's until I had my session with you, was something that's always I felt guilty for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See. Okay, we leave it there. It's working. It's not, yeah, it's working within you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Janet.
So I said, guilt for me means like, uh, so lately I feel like I've been running. I've been running away from like I lie a lot. And I don't know how to say it, but instead of facing my situations or wanting to be real about something, I want to hide. And that brings in guilt for me. And I feel really ashamed of myself. I start feeling like really, like I start putting myself down. And so then it later brings in thoughts in my head, like I feel really guilty of my situation, like of why am I putting myself in the situation? Why am I lying? And then it brings back memories of how I would run away from my mother when I was younger. So sometimes I think if that trauma in the past is now causing me to run away from all of my situations and just have guilt in me all the time.
And this comes up a second time today.
Yeah.
So, your process is already working towards it. So it's revealing itself. The cause of your issues are all related to your mother relationship, and it's revealing itself from different angles today, which is great.
And so I also wanted to mention, like, I feel like it happens with close friendships too, and I don't want to ruin that friendship or a close relationship with someone because it's affecting my I feel like it's meant to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant for me to experience it because I'm also healing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy. I feel really good explaining it because I don't know. I've like in the past, I'm a shy person to talk, but I feel like as I express myself more, I'm also healing and working through it right now. So it's something that has been happening a lot often, and a lot of, not a lot, I would say, but my close friends do notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bringing it to my attention. And sometimes I don't want people to think I'm going crazy, but it's it's a trauma that has happened in my past that is happening now. So
Very good.
yeah.
Wonderful that you speak about it, is already acknowledging it, right? And that is the problem with lying. We find it convenient, no doubt about it. And we might learn it as a child to get away with things if our parents are not really present and they never see through it. So we get away with things, and it kind of makes our life easier in a way to lie here and there and so, no, I didn't do that, and no, I wasn't there, and and you think, oh, it doesn't matter, right? Of course it matters, because you're only lying to yourself, obviously, right? And you are doing the opposite of acknowledging what is, because you start to believe in your lies, because it makes you feel, a little bit easier on yourself. So then you do the opposite of acknowledging what is, actually dismissing what is. So now you have to relearn to acknowledge what is and be honest with yourself first of foremost. It doesn't really matter, because to be honest with your friends and then with others, that comes naturally when you are practicing be honest with yourself and revealing what is. And then on a other level, lying to yourself is also an ego-driven thing, because on a soul level, you never get away with things. The family constellation is revealing it. You never get away with things. So this lying is only satisfying the ego level. the personality. It never satisfies the soul. So I used to say to my son when I catch him lying or trying to lie, because I always saw that, if you lie, it's not good for your soul. It's easy. You can lie to me. I don't mind. It's just, for me, that does make no difference in my life or in my relationship to you. But you know, in your soul, it's heavy. And yeah, so great. So lots of self-observations today on your side, Janet. Great. Yeah, very good. Very good movement. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And Rosemary, how was it for you?
I don't really have the word guilt in my, I don't really use that.
Okay.
I
How about the word shame?
Nah, I
No.
use more, I can give you, I already told Janet and Dream, I had this wonderful dog, working dog, and I had her on the back of my farm pickup, and I went to have a coffee with a lady who was sick, and then in the meantime, my dog jumped off and jumped into a car and got killed. So in a way, I felt terrible, but then in a way, I was given another bitch to replace her because people felt sorry for me. And this bitch was always tied up on a chain. And only because my bitch got killed, this new one had a life. And now she is my best dog, and everyone envies me for her. So in a way, I could solve this, but I had the same thing with a nice ginger tomcat, and my dogs chased him, and I could pick the cat up. And
so what's your, sorry when I interrupt, because of time, but what's your lesson out of this, Rosemary?
yeah, with the cat, you see, he just had a heart attack because the dogs chased him, and I don't see that something. You see, with the dog, it got killed, and another one got a life because he got killed or she got killed.
So
but
what's your lesson?
I always need I don't know. If I don't see a reason, then I feel terrible. With the cat, I still miss him. With the dog, I don't miss her. I think because there is no karma or whatever.
Okay. So you want to see the destiny at work, and if you don't, and if you don't see the destiny at work, you start to feel responsible.
Yeah.
And that is the beginning of the feeling of guilt, because it's ego-driven. See, all revealed.
Here we go.
All revealed. Very good. Thank you for sharing. So there's a lot in this little exercise. I can see that in you guys. Very good. Okay. So to just a question, Reem. You can't come tomorrow at all, or shall we gather later?
I'll be in the flight. I highly doubt that the internet on the flight will be good enough to connect. I'll try, because my flight is at 9 a.m. exactly, taking off when we are starting 9 a.m. Dubai time.
And because Janet also has to come later, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So when we start
tomorrow I would be able to join at 9:30. I mean 30 minutes later your time zone.
So if we would postpone it like today another hour again tomorrow, would that help you, Reem? Well, how long are you flying for?
Earlier would be better. I'm going to San Diego, so that's 14 hours flight.
Oh my goodness.
And then I'll have a layover and I'm flying again. So this is why even the second day I'm not gonna be able to attend it. So
is that okay for you, Rosemary, if we start half an hour later so Janet can join from the start? Yeah. And Reem, you try, if your internet is good enough, you don't need to talk if you don't want to, but you can listen.
Yes.
On your headset. Yeah. And I mean, I'm hopeful that nowadays the flights provide a good enough internet to do that. So just try it.
Yeah.
So then now we're going in the meditation now, yeah, and that would be the last thing. And after the meditation, I just I don't say goodbye. I would just end the meeting so you can sit with it in your own time in your own room if you want to for a little bit longer. So you don't need to get out of the meditation and say whatever, bye bye. Yeah, just if you feel like it. So
Okay.
Maya, I actually have to go because I have to sleep for 4 hours before I get up for work.
bye bye.
So,
Go quick.
bye.
Sleep well. See you
Good
tomorrow.
night. Bye.
Night.
Well, good day to you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's sit upright. Your spine is unsupported. Relax your shoulders. Close your eyes. Focus on your belly breath. Take a deep inhale into your belly. And open mouth exhale. Inhale again. And exhale through the nose. Come into a rhythm of deep inhaling into the belly and exhaling by squeezing in the abdominal and emptying your upper part of the body completely of air. And then inhaling naturally, you're filling your lungs. The diaphragm is sinking in the space where the belly makes space. And with every breath, you relax more. Any thoughts go away. And you're entering the space of now, the happy space, the safe space. And then you see yourself in this safe space, in an age and in a situation where you felt guilty. And you are the observer of it, without emotions, without judgment. You just observe yourself in this situation. And you look closely. What has happened? Who was involved? And you go through the whole scene step by step and observe it without any emotional involvement, like a scientist observing an experiment. And you come to the point in whatever place in front of you, like a movie, where this emotion of guilt all of a sudden appears, and you stop there as if you would hold the video recorder. And you slow down and you go slowly back and you play it again in slow motion. Where is this feeling of guilt is coming from? It must be originated somewhere. This is the experiment. You as a scientist, you want to find out where it comes from. How does it look? The color, the shape, the consistency. What is it made of? What is this thing? Is it a thing? Is it related to any of the persons or animals that are playing in your scene? Or is it coming from somewhere else? And if so, from where? And in slow motion, you see how it comes in and where it resides. Where is it now? Hmm? And when you are able to locate it, you go in, the scientist, the observer that you are, into the scene, which is now paused. So every motion is, 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 is stopped. And you go to this thing that you call an emotion of guilt. And you cut it out with your sharp scalpel. And you look at it. You are a scientist, you want to know exactly what it is. You cut through it, see at both halves of it. What is it? Where is it coming from? What does it want? Where is it good for? What is the use of it? And then you come to your conclusions after you have looked at it and to a molecular level. You might put it under a microscope to find all about it out. Then you see in front of you two drawers. One is labeled keep and the other label is dispose. And you decide where you want to put the remains of your experiment that you have in your hand, in the drawer of keep or in the drawer of dispose. If you put it in the drawer that is labeled keep, you can open it any time and take it out again. Look at it, interact with it. But if you put it in the drawer dispose, it will be gone. And if you open it again, there will be nothing. The choice is yours. And then you take a deep breath. Inhale and an open mouth exhale. You see how yourself and everybody involved in the scene is leaving your happy space. So it's clean and empty left. And then yourself, you also leave your happy space. And you come back into the room you are sitting. You feel the heaviness of your weight on the chair. You are relaxed. And in your own time, you open your eyes.